So I will talk mostly about animal and behavioral research, but this is something that we can extend to other animal activity or animal use, if you want. So what we know in animal behavioral research is that we have the three R who applied, which is replace, refine, and reduce the pain of animals. But even if we applied this as researcher, we can observe sometimes many stressful processes in animal, even in the wild with the net, for instance, or in captivity with the restrained or constrained chair, and or how animals are captive. And this is very stressful for some animal, and we can observe some issues. The first issue are ethical, and the second issue are about the in-control factor. As the stress or the personality of individual, we can lead to some false positive or some false negatives, so making the publication false. And for some researchers, the 3R framework are not sufficient to ensure that animals are meaningful participants. And there are also some anthropocentric bias, which Charlotte Blattner, we work on animal agency, said in a paper in 2020, long-standing ideological blinders and anthropocentric bias frame animals as limiting beings whose lives unfold according to fixed genetic or species script, rather than as complex subjects to act with intention and purpose, both individually and collectively. So we are doing some restraints-based experiments which give us some limited result about what we could obtain from these intentional and intelligent animals. And we are doing also in captivity, which are limiting the expression of behavior of animal and how they can or they could cooperate with us. So if we talk about intention in animals, we need to define a bit the consciousness of these animals. So I don't know how much you know about consciousness. I know that some people know a lot about it, but I will try to define it very quickly. So first, we have different levels of consciousness. As the anxious consciousness with its environmental control. So for instance, insects have this access consciousness. And you have the phenomenal consciousness, where you have a kind of subjectivity of animals according to their environment. All animals, even in the same species, don't have the same perception of their environment, and who calls with the emotion. And you have the self-consciousness. And inside this self-consciousness, you have if you want to show the self-consciousness in animals, you need to show some cognitive capacity, which are the emotion, the metacognition, the episodic-like memory, and the theory of mind. So we know that many species show some emotion. For instance, you have some reaction to novelty, some reaction to rank of partners with the dominance. They don't behave in the same way if you have a dominant individual in front of them or a subordinate one. You can make some experiment with the sheep here. It's called the bucket experiments, where you put two buckets at the different places. For instance, in the left, it's a bucket with the food, and in the right, it's a bucket where you have some electric shock, or I don't know. And then after, you try to put an intermediate bucket, and you will see how the sheep react. You can do the same with the color. And some sheep are pessimism, some sheep are optimist, and you can see that you can show that they show some emotion. You also have this with the speed with the rats, where the speed are different according to the food they get, showing a kind of motivation and indicating some emotion. And this emotion, because you can make some correlation, it's probably present in all vertebrates. Metacognition are about cognition of connection. So I know what I know, or I know what I don't know. And some experiments also exist in animals to show this also quickly. You can train animal to recognize some specific colors or specific shapes. For instance, a circle or a square. And after you can present some intermediate shape, like a polygon, okay? And you can ask the animal to choose if it's a circle or a square. And maybe the animal will be sure or certain of his answer or not. And because due to this, you can introduce a third step, retrospective or introspective. So before the choice or after the choice, asking animals if they are sure about their choice. And what we discover is that rats, dolphins, chimps, macaques, and even bees succeed to show this kind of metacognition and succeed to answer to this kind of test. Then you have the episodic-like memory, and this is also present in many species. In rats, in the labyrinth, where they know where to go, but also where to go according to some delay delivered, if it's chocolates or peanuts or etc. Jays, we are looking for worms or peanuts, but only peanuts if the worms are too long catch and then are decayed. Chimpanzees, we are building some nest close to the tree where they will go to feed the day after, or orang-utans, for instance, which are able to take some tools needed to get food in 1 hour and even in 24 hours. And finally, you have the theory of minds. It's a knowledge about social relationship, and you can go further with the deception and manipulation of individuals. So this is, for instance, a picture about an anecdote of Hans Kummer in the 70s, 80s, which he said that a male tried to go behind a rock, and a female tried to follow him, and they groom each other, and this rock was present to hide the two individuals from the dominant males. And like this, they were not aggressed by the dominant male. So you project your belief in the mind of the other one. In the federation of mind, you also have the self-awareness, and you have the theory of mind about the different levels, which are the gaze. You try to follow the gaze of someone when he's looking somewhere. You follow the gaze. About intention, you know what intention someone is doing by making some specific behavior or the beliefs. And for instance, about the beliefs, there was a test I will show you in orang-utans and chimpanzee, showing that they know the false beliefs of other people, and the scientists succeed to do it using some eye tracking. So with the red dots, you can see where the chimpanzee or the orang-utan are looking. And the test is as follows. You have someone with hiding a stone, and someone else is coming, taking the stone, and put the stone on the left. The first person is going away, and then the cheater is taking the stone, putting it in the right box, and then taking with it. It's a kind of control. The other person is coming back, and if the chimpanzee knows that it's a false belief, he will look at the left box because he knows that the first person should look at this left box first. So they did different tests, and they show that chimpanzee and orang-utans have a theory of mind and know the false beliefs of their partners. And about empathy, for instance, you have a simple scene which is described like this by Franz de Waal and Plotnik. It's a scene of ordinary life. A blind, disoriented female is looking for a way. A non-blind friend comes to her aid, guiding her with her voice. Ordinary scenes, except that it takes place in Thailand, and the two protagonists are elephants. And this kind of empathy, we can find it in many species, as apes, elephants, even rats. So, what conclusion we can do first with this animal minds? We have to change our way of thinking from the anthropocentric approach to an acceptance of anthropomorphism, but also by hypothesizing that animals can think in another way that humans do. And the thing is that most of the studies are carried in captivity, and captivity limits the potentiality of animals to display natural behavior. So, for long as animals are studied from a human perspective and are tested in terms of human and not animal questions and problems, this animal will always respond as they can. So this conducts us to the concept of animal agency. And animal agency, or agency, is the capacity of an actor to act in the given environment. And this is quite large, but if we take a narrow definition, it's considered as the expression of a manifestation of subjective existence. And I show you here a chimpanzee drawing because I will talk about it at the end of my talk. And this reflects the subject desire or will, and is linked, of course, to animal mind. And as is linked to animal mind, we can define it according also to Charlotte Blackner, according to four shame: the exploration and exploitation, the practice and routine, the social norm, and the social roles. So first, if we are looking to agency through space and time, we know that animals are exploring and exploiting their environment. And if you are looking closer to this, this can lead to new demands or animal geography or animal mobilities. And the modification of this environment can shape the animal decision. So what we need to first do is to redesign the enclosure, for instance, to make them more closer to what animal could do to their animal agency. And these are some enclosure for chimpanzee at the Primate Research Institute, where they try to build some different places and different structure to favor the animal agency of chimpanzee. And specifically here, the social organization as fission of chimpanzee. Then you have the practice and the routines. We also know that animals have some habits and routines. We have to accept that animals want to work or not work with us. I say this because I remember some animal keeper or researcher saying that if the animal don't want to come, we can catch them with a net, for instance, which is very stressful for the animals, and after they don't want to work at all, and this will lead to false results. So we have to accept to collaborate with them. And we can use also some new technology, I will talk a bit further, to favor this practice and routines of animals. And we can use also these routines for medical aspects. Then you have the agency about social roles. And here, for instance, the social roles are about dominance, age, and kinship. You can see a chimpanzee drawing, and her son is close to her. And then, naturally, the son want to draw because he observed his mother drawing. So you can facilitate some experiment by using relationship of individual like this. This can be done inside the species, but you also have some multi-specific relationship. Charlotte Blattner described it in her paper, sorry. It's about a farm, rehoming farm, and she explained that you have many species interacted together. And for instance, we can see it with the sheep and the goats, where usually the goats are leaders about the sheep group and allow to more guide and to make more cohesive the sheep group. And you also have this with the goose, for instance. We are protecting some other animals in the farm. And lastly, you have agency through social norms. And it's quite difficult to show the norm in the animals, but what we know is that you have some democratic or leadership processes for collective decision that you can use in animals to favor some to more easily train some animals. You have a sense of community. You also have some cultures, and you have some conformity behavior in animals that you can use for behavioral research. And so what is important here is that here with the practice and the routine and the exploration and exploitation, it's to you as a researcher to see what you can do with animals to facilitate the research. But with the social norm and the social role, sorry, you can really try to interact and collaborate with animals and to better understand what they could do and how you can favor this. And for instance, Franz de Waal say that most experiments I've done thus far is testing the apes theory of the human mind, but we could do better to focus on the apes theory of the apes mind. And this can be, of course, extend to other animal species. And here again, it's a video of a chimpanzee. We try to make a drawing, but she doesn't want, and she doesn't want the food. And we need to understand what she really wants at this moment to make her drawing, for instance. We also need to spend time with animals to learn from them, to adjust the scientific learning. And we should accept animals not as subjects, but as participants. And here it's a video, for instance, I took from Tonkan macaque. In macaque, it's difficult to show the self-awareness, but with this Tonkan macaque, he was quite smart. He could see his reflection in the camera, and he began to interact naturally with the camera. At the beginning, he makes some lip smacking, showing that he tried to interact with the reflect. But you will see that at the end of the video, he's trying more to understand what he's observing, and try to touch, to smell his finger, to make some behavior which look like self-awareness and understanding of his own reflection. I don't know if you will see. Yeah, like this. And here we are going in the same way. We need to interact and to communicate with animals, and it has to be done in both directions. And here you can see again, we try to work with this chimpanzee to make her realize and do a test. But first, she wanted to play with the researcher, and so we played with her, and we use the play to make her doing the test. This can be extended to other animals. For instance, here you will see a rat. I will show you. This is a rat which is licking some orang-utans or something like this, and he played to a game by moving into the game. And he understood how to play, how to move into the game, and even when to shot. And you can see that it's not. This is just a kind of clothes. It's not invasive for him, so it's very good. And here it's also a study about octopus, and they called it the octopus city, because you can observe different octopus and different places, modifying their behavior and building a kind of city where they can live together. So how can we use this collaboration with animal and the technology to improve animal agency and behavioral research in captivity? For instance, here you can see a chimpanzee looking at reordering the number on the screen, and he's coming when you want, the time you want, and he get some food. And here, this is an experiment where it's a captive capuchin making some exchange. So he's taking a small piece of food, not eating it, giving it back to the researcher to have a bigger one. And what is important to understand in this test is that the test was not invented by the researcher, but it was invented by the animal themselves, because they begin to throw naturally some stones outside of the enclosure. And once a researcher was there and give a nut to the animal, and the animal naturally make a link. If I throw a stone, I get a nut, and they begin to throw more and more stones, and because of their behavior, the researcher try to go further to understand what they can change, how they can change, and so on. So this test was invented by the animal themselves. Here also you have, you know that for anesthetized animals, it's to health check, it's quite difficult. And here you can see Matsuzawa, who learned to eye the famous chimpanzee to be not scared about the anesthesia and that she will fall into to sleep. Is communicating with her. She's accepting the anesthesia, and she will lay on her side, and she will sleep, and she's fine. And we can go further. The same here with this echography, when the female accept to lay, and she accept to have this machine with her, and it's not a problem. And here with the chimpanzee accepting to have the electrode on his head, and where we can measure some neuroactivity on aware animals. So you can also try to to think about cooperation and technology to improve animal research in the wild. So this is a test we did with some Japanese macaques. It's a fruit box, but this was never done in the wild at this time, where we try to learn some individual to open a box to study social diffusion and social transmission. You also have some stuff in meerkat, sorry. Technology, yeah, it's a new paper published this year. It's called the Boombox. You have a camera and you have some sound, and you can test the reaction and behavioral reaction of animals according to the sound. The playback. You play with the machine. So here you have some baboons, some cheetah, and someone, so on. And so you can use some technology to try to extend the cooperation, or at least to fit with the animal agency. And for instance, RFID, it's a small. This is what you get, what you have on your bank card. You can put on the leg of animals, or bats, or even on bee, and this allows to test the personality, the sociality, the innovation, the learning behavior or foraging behavior of animal in the wild. And finally, you have also the artificial intelligence today to recognize automatically the behavior and the identity of individuals in the wild. So here you can see the face detection. So all of this to say that if you better understand the animal agency of the species you study, and if you use this new technology, you can try to go further in behavioral research and to go from the lab to the field to study directly wild animals. And this is something we proposed, where you have some box in the field. Animal can enter in the box using facial recognition, for instance. You have a touch screen, you have some eye tracking, you can get some rewards, and you can test many things in the wild. You can go a bit further with the robotics. So here you have some robots with bees. It's a bee dance. So it's a robot interacting with the bees. Here you have a bee fish robot interacting also with other ones about collective decision and leadership. And here it's about cockroaches. What is important here is that the robot is considered as a container for the animals. And some new stuff are done. So this is only some robots we were built by the BBC. It was kind of experiment, one-shot experiments. But even by this one-shot experiment, we could observe some new behaviors what we never observed before, because the robots look like real animals. And here you don't have a publication about this, but this is the Incawu Vervet project with Erika van der Waal. And they try to use a robot, it's this year, to go on the field. And what we can observe is that the robot can go closer to the animals. They are not afraid by the robot, contrary to humans. And so you can try to see how you can make the robots interacting with the animals to think about new research and new protocol. And lastly, quickly, about our research in Apes drawing, when we try to think about animal agency and getting out of the anthropocentric bias. So here you have two drawings. One is made by a human and one is made by a chimpanzee. Looking like this, you don't know exactly which one is made by the chimpanzee, which one is made by the human. And so this one is made by Marilyn Wells, which is an artist, and this one is made by Misaki, which is a chimpanzee at the Kumamoto Sanctuary. And what we try to understand is the representativeness of the intention in drawing, but without human measure. Meaning that it's not because it looks like, I don't know, he's drawing a car, he's drawing a bird, he's drawing something that we can recognize with our eyes. We try to go outside from this human concept. And we make this with apes, but we try to also do it with children from 2 to 3. And what we do is that we are using artificial intelligence and mathematical indices coming from physics to get some indices about representativeness. And for instance, we use a spatial fractal index to understand human and chimpanzee drawing. We use drawing on tablets in humans and in chimpanzee. And what we show is that chimpanzee drawing are not random, but they have the lowest coefficient indicating the lowest efficiency in drawing. But we observe some differences between the chimpanzee in the drawings. And this is what you can see here. This is the drawing of I, and she always makes some drawing like this, making some curved line. This is a drawing of Pan, and she is drawing always like this, with some small lines. This is a drawing of Zamba, which is always making some points like this, always. So they draw differently. And we show the same with orang-utans, with Molly, which draw 1,300 drawing. Her drawing are more complex than the other individual, more colorful, more shapes, and so on. And she is also drawing differently according to the season, and she draw differently according to her age, showing that there is something behind that we need to go deeper. So we want to go a bit further in this study, using, for instance, eye tracking in the understanding of drawing, continuing to use new mathematical measure, working with other species. Here you can see, they call it Picasso, with making some drawing, and also trying to give new possibility to animals to express their behavior, to better understand this intention and this representativeness. Thank you very much.